per week, $19.99. Rent-A-Center has a worry-free guarantee, free same-day delivery, and competitor price matching. Rent-A-Center, located in the Tri-City Shopping Center in Redlands, where the 10 and the 210 meet between the Alabama and Tennessee exits. Rent-A-Center, $19.99 per week. Sale price is valid until October 28th.
Good morning, everyone. This is Reverend Irma Forward, and my companion Jean is not feeling too well this morning, so she's not with us. But you are tuned in to Wake Up Awareness. And I have a wonderful gentleman who will support us today, Mr. Al Yankee. Yes. Hi, Al.
Hi, Irma. How are you doing this morning?
Good. Al is going to be our musical guest and do a little bit of gene work for us this morning. A little bit. So we'll just step into that. Al is a musician from way back.
Way back.
Way back? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
50 years.
50 years. He's been a fantastic musician. I first met Al probably about 20 years ago, actually. Over at the Riverside Church of Religious Science at that time. And he played a wonderful wind instrument. I'm not going to try to identify it.
I was playing saxophone and flute.
Flute is what it was.
Okay.
During our meditation services, and that was a very powerful experience with him. So we're in really good hands today, just so you know. But anyway, once again, this show is Wake Up Awareness. I would like to bring to your attention the fact that today is Easter Sunday for many of the Eastern Orthodox spiritual traditions, Russian Orthodox, Greek Orthodox. Today is their Easter. So since last week, we had a rerun of our show from Palm Sunday, I'm going to talk a little bit about the Easter experience today because it is somewhat Easter today. And it has to do with the calendar. We celebrated Easter here in the Western world last Sunday, and it has to do with the Julian and Gregorian calendars and how they view things. But anyway, the idea is that Easter is a total representation of what it is to dwell in a transformed state of consciousness. And so we'll be talking a little bit about that today. I want to bring to your attention also the fact that I used to live in the Poway area of San Diego. And so I'm familiar with the temple or the synagogue that was shot in yesterday, synagogue Shabbat. And so I'm sending all our love and all of our spiritual support to everyone there at that particular center. We've got to learn to accept each other, even though we are diverse in our thinking. That's the way God made us all. We're diverse in our thinking. We're diverse in our approach to life and in our way of acknowledging this presence that we call God. So we want to let everybody be what they are. All roads lead to God is what I always say. And we want to just simply be in a state of mind where we can allow people to worship the presence as they choose. So we give thanks for the opportunity to express this, coming from Wake Up Awareness and also coming from me as a person, as an individual. So we are absolutely thankful for the opportunity to be able to pray at this point in time and support our spiritual sisters and brothers there at the synagogue of Shabbat Synagogue. There was a prayer vigil there last night, I'm sure. So we will always keep them in prayer. And just know that this quality of hate has to stop, and we'll pray for the cessation of that idea that certain things aren't good. What they do is not a good way to worship, but we're acknowledging that all roads lead to the presence that we call God. The purpose of our talk today, the purpose of our being together in spiritual community today is to acknowledge your spiritual magnificence. And so we have a couple of really magnificent people here, Al, in addition to ourselves.
Yes.
And that would be Rick and Curtis.
Look at
And we're absolutely thankful for them as they keep us on track Each Sunday, Rick has been here, and Curtis is going to be our new engineer on Sunday mornings, and so we're excited about that. So welcome, Curtis. Thank you for being with us. All right. And so right now, because we are basically a science of mind teaching, we teach some of the traditions of unity as well. However, this morning we're going to focus on science of mind readings. And when I say readings, we're going to talk a little bit about what the spiritual practices are in the science of mind churches. And we have what we call spiritual practices.
Yes.
And yeah, so Al is going to talk to us just very briefly about what these spiritual practices are so that we know.
It's important to know, but with this idea of resurrection and transformation that we've got going today, I've got a little poem I'd like to share with you, if you don't mind.
No, not at all.
I think you might find it appropriate.
Okay.
It's called Suddenly Swans. It's by Carol Connell.
Okay.
Two drunken bums, seeking shelter from a pelting rain, staggered into the old edifice and landed on a back pew. Welcoming words, old hymns, upraised hands, words of praise, snippets of a sermon melded together and did a chaotic dance in their heads.
Oh.
How it happened, they didn't know. Tears ran down their faces as they knelt at a wooden altar, suddenly sober.
Uh-oh.
In moments of miraculous transformation, ugly ducklings really do become suddenly swans.
Wow. Okay. Thank you.
Oh,
Thank
sure,
you for
sure,
that.
sure.
And so there's a transformation taking place there.
Exactly.
Okay. Wow.
So some of the tools for transformation, some of the spiritual
Okay.
practices that we have in Science of Mind.
Uh-huh.
First and foremost, affirmative prayer, this
Okay.
idea of speaking our truth, and spiritual mind treatment, the codification of how to do that.
Okay.
My personal favorite, I think, is meditation.
Okay. All right.
You know, those moments of quiet when we are one with the one.
Okay. One with the one. Yes.
Of course, conscious giving. You know, sharing our wealth and having it shared with us in return, and that flow, that circulation, that current.
And then when you share, it kind of comes back.
Of course, it comes back multiplied and flowing over.
Wonderful. That's exciting.
This and the idea of sacred service, which is another form of conscious giving.
Yes, it is.
You know, it's just giving of our time and of ourselves and of our talents,
Okay.
as well as of our treasure.
Yes. Yes.
And spiritual study, the taking time to read and contemplate and learn from teachers, gurus, masters. And then finally and powerfully,
Okay.
visioning,
All right.
the idea of seeing possibility, listening for divine truth to manifest itself in our minds.
Wonderful.
Those are our
Wonderful.
spiritual practices.
Yes, they are. Yes, they are. And the visioning is such a powerful tool, as you say, one of the most powerful, just simply because you are seeing, so to speak, within your vision, all the pieces of the puzzle to put together and to manifest truth as you understand truth. So that's really a very powerful statement. So right now, I'm going to anchor us in prayer. So just be still for a moment. And I know that if you're out there on the highway driving, but just be still and just simply know that there is a power, that there is a presence, there is the one mind of God that pervades absolutely everything, that is everywhere present, omniscient, omnipresent, all-knowing, all-wise. And it is in this awareness that we simply give thanks for the opportunity to simply be alive in a magnificent and elegant universe, a universe of all good. And we give thanks for that. We give thanks for the opportunity right now to broadcast what we call our spiritual truths out into the universe. And so what is happening now is that we will allow this to take place, knowing that we are divinely inspired, that we are magnificent human beings expressing God in a most magnificent manner. For this we give thanks, and we allow this service, this idea, to unfold with ease and with grace. And it is lovingly so. And so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is. And so now we have, Alan's going to present to us a wonderful song. And
Well,
what
thank
is
you,
that
sir.
song?
This
It's a song that you wrote, right?
Yes.
Okay.
It's actually the first kind of new thought or of these teaching songs
Okay.
that I wrote. I'd been playing at the Riverside Center that you talked about for many years, and just kind of as a hired musician.
Okay.
And as I sat there every Sunday hearing these teachings, because I didn't come in, off the street. I came in to play my flute and play my saxophone.
Okay.
I just kept hearing these wonderful teachings, and I said, somebody's got to write some songs about these things. And eventually I realized that probably meant me.
That meant you.
So this was the very
A
first
little
one
bit
I
of the
wrote.
vision, somewhat.
Inspiration can sometimes come in odd forms.
Yes, it
Sometimes
does.
it can seem more like an itch than a ray of sunlight.
Okay. Well, let's see how this manifests
All right,
itself
very
for
good.
you.
And there's that flute.
Yes, it is.
A thought's a beginning, a magical start. It sets events spinning, whirling out from your heart. Everything traded, bartered or bought, each thing that's created began as a thought. Thoughts are things, and things are thoughts. Ideas have wings to soar aloft, dreams and wishes unconfined. Mind matters, matter minds. Imagine a world, that's all it takes. Picture an ocean, sparkling rivers and lakes. Envision an Eden, hold it close in your mind. Believe that it's real. Here's what you'll find: a beautiful pearl floating in space, a place of abundance filled with love's sweet embrace. One vibrant creation, feel the joy of it all. Sense the interconnections of all things, great and small. All thoughts are things, and things are thoughts. Ideas have wings to soar aloft, dreams and wishes unconfined. Mind matters, matter minds. From the least of ideas to the greatest abstractions, The universe acts on beliefs and reactions, as within, so without, as above, so below. We move beyond doubt and know what we know, that thoughts are things, things are thoughts, ideas have wings to soar aloft, dreams and wishes unconfined. Mind matters, matter minds. Well, thoughts are things, things are thoughts, ideas have wings to soar aloft, dreams and wishes unconfined. Mind matters, matter minds. Mind matters, matter minds.
Wow, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Thoughts are things and mind matters. Matter minds.
That's the title of an Ernest Holmes book, isn't it?
Something like that. It's one of the premier concepts
Yes.
of our teaching of science of mind, that thoughts do become things. When you stop and think about the fact that you're thinking things every single day, many times a day, and many times a day you're thinking the same thing, which you're embedding in consciousness, so you want to be careful about what you think all the time.
Absolutely.
Because it becomes manifest in your real world. We call it the real world of what we're dealing with, the world of effects. And so we want to be careful with what we think, because it does manifest itself. So, stop thinking about lack and limitation and poverty. Focus on the good. Even though it's not readily available, it doesn't appear to be readily available, but we want to take up the time to actually know that it is available. And Al, it's everywhere present.
It is, actually.
Actually,
everywhere
present.
You know Eddie Watkins Jr.,
Yes. Uh-huh.
He's got a song that addresses that in a way that just I always love. It's called "Quit Your Stinkin' Thinking."
Quit your... Oh, I love that. Quit your stinking thinking. That's a tongue twister for me. Okay, so we're going to step into our message for today, and this is about your mind being transformed. We're talking about the transformed life itself. And because this is the Easter season, as we alluded to earlier in our broadcast here, today is Easter Sunday for the Russian Orthodox Church, the Greek Orthodox Church, and many other spiritual traditions that are not necessarily Catholic or Protestant. Today becomes their day of Easter, and it's still good. Actually, I don't want to be disrespectful, but, they could have purchased the jelly beans and all those kind of things at half price.
Of course.
This week.
Not a bad deal.
Not a bad deal. That wouldn't have been a bad deal. But and let me proceed with this. The idea is that for centuries, the story of Easter, to some faith, has been the literal account of the resurrection of Jesus. Now, to other faiths, it is a metaphor about transformation. For metaphysical communities, it remains up to the individual to decide. So in a metaphysical community, what we want you to know is that you have choices that you can make. And you can make a choice right now as to whether Easter is a metaphor for transformation or is a literal interpretation of the resurrection of Jesus. Now, there is certainly evidence that Jesus lived. That is not in question at all. But the fact is, do you actually believe in the resurrection? So Easter is a very important day for most of the population of the world. However, it is one of the 3 times of the year when churches, metaphorically minded or literally inclined, are better attended. And that's great news for us
Sure.
as ministers, yeah? So we're talking about Christmas, we're talking about Thanksgiving and Easter. And it becomes quite a challenge for pastors and priests and spiritual leaders. And I've often heard many of my colleagues say, Al, they would say, well, what else is there to say about Easter? Well, the story in many of these major holy days is essentially the same year after year, but it's how it is presented. And so I've noticed that when I hear a story over and over again, that I have the inclination to stop listening well. Because I kind of know what's coming next.
Of course.
Yeah, you know what's coming next. And so I keep that in mind when I'm in preparation for the Easter story or the Thanksgiving story or even the Christmas message. I try to keep all those things in mind. And I try to ask myself at this time of the year, what is it about the Easter story and its message about the journey of transformation that I've quit listening to? What is it that's making me not want to hear this anymore? What have I stopped paying attention to, or what is there in the story that I don't want to hear? So we've got to be careful with that.
Right.
But there's a lot of stuff out there. So starting with the time that leads up to Easter, the period between the death and the resurrection of Jesus, and the 3 days in the tomb, there is a lot in these milestones that many have a reluctance to go through. The journey of the dark night of the soul is just not as uplifting as the story of the triumphant return or the resurrection itself. Now, that's one aspect of the story of transformation that I have to remind myself to listen to, not to rush it, not to avoid it, and not to deny it. I've got to listen. Now, there is a place between the dark night and the bright day in your story. In the Easter story, it is the part where the most important thing dies. I typically don't want to hear about that. I don't want to hear about that. I prefer to fast forward to the part of the story where the resurrection happens and everything is wonderful again. Now, that's what a lot of us want to do because we don't enjoy suffering. So we enjoy many times the novels and the movies that remind us that there is life after the crash, after the big letdown, that there is life when a relationship dies. You think it's the end of the world, but what happens? All of a sudden your world changes and becomes really bright because there's something new on the horizon that is being made manifest in that very moment. So I enjoy metaphors that remind me that life itself prevails and that spring returns, that good always triumphs, and that we're all going to be okay. And I like stories that have an ever after, especially an after that I have some say in, okay? And that is my story about Easter. That's the deal. But let's fast forward now, Al, to the present. Where are we in our own personal Easter story? Now, spring came about a month ago. Today's 28th, so a little, 3 or 4 days into into a month. And we looked forward with anticipation as the threshold of spring presented us with opportunities to grow, to expand, and to participate in this action of transformation. It has been said that the highest purpose of intellectual culture is for the human to have wisdom and understanding and then to master their inner selves. It is the inner self where change and transformation, or renewal, if you will, takes place. It takes place from the inside out. Now, Ernest Holmes, who is the dean and founder of our teaching of religious science, says that the time has come, the hour has struck, and the power from within is coming forth and expressing through my word. Okay? And then Ralph Waldo Emerson says that Easter takes men out of time and makes them feel eternity. Those are some powerful statements
nice,
there. Yeah. So this is the Easter story. And so we want to attempt to balance this story with ideas now from the East and the West. We want this story to be personal to our heart, recognizing the principle which in the West we call the Christ. And we can also call this principle the Atman, Brahma, or Buddha. Even more close to home and Western philosophy, we can call this principle the enlightened one, or what, Al? Your higher self.
Nice.
How about that? It doesn't matter what you call it, because God doesn't seem to care what you call it, since God is all-encompassing and eternal. God only invites you to call upon it and recognize it. So what we know is that the master teacher Jesus, who is historically Jewish and never heard the term Christianity, was enlightened. And he walked into his Christ consciousness, and this consciousness is total at one moment, or enlightenment, just as the prince awakened under the Bodhi tree. Okay? So Jesus experienced his total at one moment with the all that there is. Now, when the prince was lying under the Bodhi tree, a lot of things were taking place. And when he woke up, his name became Gautama, and he became the Buddha itself. Now, there is divine potential in all of us to become transformed and rise above where we are in consciousness at this moment. I have a colleague who coined the term CIE. Consciousness is everything.
Right. Okay.
CIE.
I
Consciousness
like that.
is everything. If consciousness is everything, then the Easter story is the revelation that consciousness is the Alpha and the Omega of everything. Now, I just want to throw in a little side thing here.
Okay.
My brother, I'm the oldest of many children, and then I had a younger brother that we were close to because I had the responsibility for caring for him many times while my mom worked. And he was very bright. And one day after church, he says, Irma, you are the Alpha and I am the Omega
There you go.
of everything. So we are all states of consciousness waiting to reveal our own individual Easter story. And even though we have a physical body to which consciousness appears to be attached, we are so much more than this physical body. What a revelation to know that
Absolutely.
we are being housed in a spiritual body just to express how God is always and all the time, and expresses itself in and through each one of us. And we all have gifts and talents that we have come here to present to the universe. And we want to be careful and present those talents if we can, if we recognize what they are. And so the mystics over time have always said that we are mental beings, but then again, we are so much more than the mental body. When it becomes ours, it becomes a choice or responsibility to step into our Christ nature or our Buddha mindfulness or becoming one with Brahman. We come together for these Sunday celebrations, coming together in a very wonderful way and in a very broad way. We come together to realize a change in consciousness, which can result in physical change as well. We are so much more than the physical body, so much more than that. We are spirit, and in spirit there is only one life, and it is centered in each of us at this very moment. Being so much more than the physical body alludes to the concept that I am spirit, or I am as spirit created me. With exponential potential, get that? Exponential potential to be in that Christ consciousness.
Nice.
Or to have the Buddha awareness, or to evolve as the Atman. I say that we are evolving between time and space. Now, this may imply physical death, but the spirit will go on ad infinitum. You like that? Ad infinitum.
Yes.
It goes on forever. And we think sometimes, oh, I'm not ready for the greater life. I haven't done this or that. In other words, I haven't completed my bucket list,
Right,
so to
right.
speak. There is something that can be done about each one of these things. As we die to these low-level vibrations of life, we are able to live and pursue the transformed life. This we can literally crucify those low-level ideas which are attached to this mortal coil, and we find more ways to live a changed life as we understand the factors involved in transformation. Now, let me say that again.
Please.
I'm going to say that again. All right. As we die to these low-level vibrations of life, thinking that we have so much to do and we want to pursue the transformed life, then we can literally crucify those low-level ideas which are attached to the mortal coil. And we find more ways to live a changed life as we understand the factors that are involved in our own personal transformation.
That's incredibly strong.
Yes, it is. That's really strong. You see, we are what? This is exciting. We are consciousness in action. We are actually consciousness in action. We have come to the realization that spirit, that God can only do for us that which can be done how? Through us. Yes.
Absolutely.
So we release or crucify these ideas of lack or limitation, and we can hug our children and our grandchildren more in this time, this space and place than ever before. Okay? So I invite you to just kind of touch yourself and say, I am human and in absolute awe of what God does through me. Do you stop and think about that sometimes, and you think how awesome you are? But it is the Spirit of God floating in and through you that presents itself as awesome,
Right.
as you who are an awesome and what? Magnificent being.
Yes.
That's who and what you are. So now let's continue right now, however, to explore this Easter story because it represents vibrations on a higher level of functioning. The mystical one, and let me define mystic. A mystic who is one who instinctively knows the spiritual truth. And this is according to Holmes. Just instinctively knowing truth and letting truth flow through them. But the mystical one, Jesus said, in my Father's house there are many mansions. Now, during this season of renewal and transformation, we are challenged to step in to a high vibration or a high level of love and light. We are invited to step into one of the Father's mansions, the higher mansions. We must commit to being love, and I know you're going to sing to us about love later, Al, okay, as God loves. And this is without attachment, and to love unconditionally and always.
Wow.
Okay? So the historical story of Jesus leads us to biblical scripture wherein he says, I am the way, the truth, and the light. This I am, which he declared, is within each of us. And it is this I am, is seeking to reveal itself in the human condition. You see, when we turn on the news or even view your news on the internet, right now we can hear of so many horrific stories that are regarding the human condition as war and the state of the economy dominates the headlines. There is fierce competition for goods and services. What we as metaphysicians know is that the collective consciousness often embraces fear and doubt. However, as we lay down or as we crucify that which no longer serves us, we rise up. We rise up into our greater yet to be, into our greater potential, because we are shaking off the shackles of despair and disillusionment as we take on a transformed state of being.
All right.
We take that on. We become the radiant light beings that we profess to be. Touch yourself and say, I am a light being, and the light shines through and as me. So say that with me, Al. I am a light being, and the light shines through and as me. And indeed it does. You see, the light is however you are able to express your gifts and your talents to the universe. You see, the darkness recedes and the larger light breaks through. As light beings, we rise up into the Easter of our own being. This is a choice we make because scientifically we know that we exist in a quantum field of possibility. Therefore, we raise our vibrations, okay? We move into another mansion, so to speak. So if we make a choice to bring our level of thoughts and ideas higher, this quantum field responds to what we bring to it, okay? Yes. We rise to our highest possibility. If the choice is to rise to spiritual greatness, then we can exist in the state of Easter Sunday while this balance of humanity is stumbling around as if it's Saturday, okay? But Saturdays become what? Sundays. Saturdays become Sundays, and certainly we can support others on their rise in consciousness as a Sunday kind of person. All right? So transformation is yours for the taking. It is yours for the having. It is about rising above the conditions of that which is mortal and into the birthless, deathless, omnipresent field of infinite love and opulence as defined in your life. Opulence. I love opulence.
Oh, yes.
We love it. Okay. So we may have to go into our own Garden of Gethsemane. Now, that's kind of scary there because that leads to other things. But, however, we want to go into our own Garden of Gethsemane to contemplate our circumstances and have the vision for our future, which becomes our Easter. And that's why the Easter story can be your story. It can be close and personal in that you can't have it how it is now and also how it would be after, okay? For example, you can't use up all the Earth's resources. Think about this. We can't use up all the Earth's resources and dream about a world that works for everyone. You can't dream about a world that works for everyone but refuse to give up anything if it impinges upon your personal freedom. Okay? You can't want honesty and right action in politicians and world leaders, and at the same time, you want to sit down and rest. Okay? You can't not vote and be slightly dishonest. And, well, you get the point. You get the idea.
You're calling us to task here.
You're calling, yeah, there's a call to action here. Call to action. So something has to die. Something has to be completely crucified, okay? Maybe even a whole way of life has to die or be transformed.
Exactly.
Okay? I think that we are creative minds continuously imagining a glorious vision of life. We know how to dream. The challenge is how to enter into the dream. And for some, it means putting down those things that prevent it from coming. And for some, those things may be the things that they cherish the most. And so concepts of being the dominant species or the nation consuming the most resources on the planet have to be investigated. We have to look at that. We have the potential and the capacity to shake off the shackles of the thoughts and ideas which are entombed in our consciousness and our national psyche, but will not serve the greater good. We as a people may have to really look at what former Vice President Al Gore calls an inconvenient truth. We have to look at that. We have a planet that we want to keep intact for quite a while, okay? So our greatness comes then from the tremendous resources in our soul. We have resources in our soul that we don't even know about. But through the practice, Al, that you were talking about of meditation, being still in the presence and to know, then we are able to make conscious decisions from that point of view. So let us make the decision now to step in to Easter, not only on this day, but every day of our life. So when we talk about resurrection, we have allowed the death of archaic and useless behavior, which is shed in the tomb of the life experience, and then we are able to move to a place of real life, regardless of what the body may be doing or experiencing. You see, Jesus, the Christ, revealed to us an abundant life based on unconditional love and compassion, and it is ours. And it raises us up from the death of the mortal condition to a state of living wherever we may be, whatever conditions physically we may be in. That's what resurrection means to us. You see, we are constantly resurrecting the ego self as it affirms as a new adventure as Christ consciousness at one-ment and enlightenment. So we move out of the shadows of life and into the light as we follow our passion for wholeness. We are spiritual light beings, and therefore we illumine the call for all to fully see and walk in the path of transformation. As we rise, our individual and collective consciousness is infused with light. Our experiences become created. We choose the light, we stand in it, we knock, and the door is open, wide, and very wide. Ernest Holmes says, "It is a time for us to walk into the Easter experience, for we here are Easter people, not as a race or ethnic group, but as states of consciousness." Right. We are not hanging around, not hanging out on Saturdays, but we move fully into holiness and wholeness as we accept Easter Sunday as an awakened consciousness. You have been born for such a time as this. And so I invite you all to explore the Easter possibilities as represented by yourself and live in Buddha enlightenment, to live in Christ consciousness and become at one-ment, become the Atman. Hug yourself and say, "I call forth the consciousness of Easter to be within me right here and right now." And the story continues.
The story continues.
The story continues. And so today, I celebrate, and I believe Al celebrates, the transformed mind within each one of you this day. And so it is.
And so it is.
And so it is.
Wow.
Okay.
You're on fire this morning.
It's exciting. I love my job.
And you do it well.
Okay, thank you. And so now Al's going to sing us another song this morning.
Yes, this is the piece that I wrote. I've written one Christmas song, which I never thought I would write a Christmas song.
Wow.
And I've written one Easter song, which I never thought I would do.
Okay.
So life unfolds in unexpected and mysterious ways sometimes.
It does. And so the name of your song?
This is called, appropriately enough,
Okay.
I Rise.
I Rise. All right. Okay, so we'll have some music coming on here.
Looking back over everything that's happened, looking back, it's so hard to take it in. If I know anything after everything that's happened, if I had it to do over, I'd do it all again. But now all that's done is done. I turn to face the dawn and then I rise. There's nothing else to do and nowhere else to go, and so I rise. Like an eagle taking flight, I leap into the night and then I rise. Carried by the wind, feels like being born again. I ride the morning sun to the heavens, all is done, and so I rise. Looking back at the heartache and the sorrow, looking back at the times when things were tough. Please forgive me, I'm sorry if I ever caused you pain. I did the best I could. I hope it was enough. But now all that's done is done. I turn to face the sun and then I rise. There's nothing else to do and nowhere else to go, and so I rise like an eagle taking flight. I leap into the night and then I rise. Carried by the wind, feels like being born again. I ride the morning sun to the heavens, all is done, and so I rise. I can't believe it's come to this. Could it really be the end? But each end is a beginning, so I'll learn to live again. And I rise. There's nothing else to do, and nowhere else to go, and so I rise like an eagle taking flight. I leap into the night and then I rise. Carried by the wind, feels like being born again. I ride the morning sun to the heavens, all is done, and so I rise. I rise. I rise.
Wow. Okay. That was an individual, your own composition. Yes?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, that was
absolutely
wonderful. I rise. And that's a good metaphor for coming up out of the darkness. As we come through the dark night of the soul, we leave everything there that no longer serves us, and we rise, kind of like the phoenix coming up out of the ashes of our life. So that is a very powerful song. Thank you so much for that.
Whew, it's a workout, too.
Yeah, it'll work out. But it's good. You see, we have worked out as we've gone through this dark night of the soul, so to speak. That's a real workout for many of us.
Oh, man.
And so we get through it.
Sort of the ultimate workout.
It is the ultimate workout. It really is. I used to not understand what that meant, but now I do. And so many of us are still existing right now at that place that we call the dark night of the soul, because we haven't learned that we have to release everything.
It's all based in thoughts of separation.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
When we realize that we are that God manifest, that expression of the divine.
Right.
That we are one with the one, then it helps us realize and make that transformation.
We can. And we can do it. Sometimes we think, I can't do this, but you can.
Absolutely.
Because there is this support. These everlasting arms are right there to lift you up and actually to push you through the dark night of the soul, push you through that tunnel and get you out of there. So we know that this is all true because we can rise.
Or
rise
to
above.
nag you to get up on your feet and do it.
Yeah, nag you, yes. And then there's something called the what? Cosmic 2x4?
Yes, the feather, the stick, and the 2x4.
There you go. So we want to, rise above all circumstances, and we can. And it becomes our resurrection, so to speak. It becomes our Easter. And that's what happens. And so I want to invite you into prayer with us for a moment. We pray in an affirmative manner. And if you have someone that you would like prayer for, just go to our Facebook page, which is called Wake Up Awareness. Leave us a message there. We do have a team of prayer warriors that pray with Jean and myself for everyone that is on our list. So please let us know. Just go to our Facebook page, Wake Up Awareness, and leave us a message there. But I'd like for you to just be still with me right now, and to just simply know that there are those people that we are sending love to, that we're sending wholeness and healing to at this very moment. For we want them to realize and to understand clearly that they are children of the universe, and what they are, simply put, is God expressing itself in a magnificent manner in and through them. No matter what the appearance may be, God is always there expressing itself through you. So I'm speaking my word for everyone that has a health issue this morning, for everyone that thinks that they have relationship issues this morning, for everyone that thinks that they have financial problems this morning. I want you to know that there is an answer to each and every one of these problems, and the answer comes through you. But I invite you to be in that meditative state and to be still and listen. Listen to the small whispers from Spirit that come through you. And so this morning, I'm speaking my word right here and right now for Pam, for Molly, for Mark, for Bryce, speaking my word also for June and family, for Bill, for every church, every synagogue, and every mosque, and all spiritual centers that are teaching the truth of who we are. We speak our word and know that our word, which originally was a thought, became our word and is now expressing itself as wholeness, as physical healing. And we are accepting these ideas for everyone on our list and beyond. I invite everyone within the sound of my voice to speak the name of someone that you feel needs a healing. And we're declaring that that healing is taking place right now. We know that to be the truth. For God is, always has been, and always will be. And so it is.
And so it is.
And so we give thanks for that. We have an affirmation for us this morning, and that affirmation says that I step easily into an awareness of my higher good. And so I'd like for us to say that together. Al, I step easily into an awareness of my higher good. And so step easily into an awareness. Just be still and know, be still and feel the presence of the one idea that we call God. And so now I invite you to be still. Once again, we are big time prayers. We pray a lot. And so I'll give us our closing prayer, and then Al will sing us a song called Be Love, and that will be our closing inspiration for today. Be love, and be love always, because God is love. And it says that in biblical scripture. It says that in all spiritual scripture, no matter what it comes from, whether it's Bible, whether it's the Vedas, whether it's the Upanishads, all says that love is the answer. Love is the key to living the magnificent, magnificent life. So please know with me right here and right now that every day, from sunrise to the setting of the sun, God is and always has been. This one life that is God's life is our life right here and right now. It is perfect and dwells within the being of each one of us. It is whole and complete, and we affirm our gratitude for all that takes place in our lives. And we realize that we are solely connected to our higher power as God. So we acknowledge who we are and whose we are. We stand poised on the threshold of our greater good as we allow Spirit to work as us, managing our conditions for our highest and best good. We breathe into the experience of allowing Spirit to set the tone for our higher good. Listening to the voice from within, which encourages us to be authentic and fearless. Then we walk into the open door of perfect health, abundance, and soulful relationships which support us on the spiritual road to our higher good. We support and protect all, no matter what spiritual tradition or ethnicity. And we continue to offer prayerful support for all world leaders, knowing that they are transformed as they lean not to their own understanding, but rely solely on whispers from Spirit. And so this day we live in awe and wonder of the blessings bestowed upon this great nation. And we are thankful for the grace that has been bestowed upon us as emissaries of pure spirit. And that grace continues to abide in our land, a grateful nation and an always great nation. I release this word to the law of creativity and know that it is done. And so it perfectly is.
So it is.
And so it is. And our closing inspiration, musical inspiration, is Be Love by Al Yankee.
It's the answer to the question, yes? What do we all want?
We all want.
We all want to be loved.
We do.
And how do we make that happen?
By being it first.
There you go. Do you want to be loved? We all want to be loved. If you want to be loved, don't want. Be love. Do you try to be free? Well, we all try to be free. If you try to be free, well, don't try. Be free. Because you see, it's really simple. You see, it's really clear. But simple isn't easy, and not the same, I fear. Do you love to be free? We're all free to be loved. If you love to be free, and you're free to be loved, don't try, don't want, be free. Don't want, don't try, be loved. Because you see, it's really simple. You see, it's really clear, but simple isn't easy, then not the same, I fear. Do you love to be free? We're all free to be loved. If you love to be free, and you're free to be loved, don't try, don't want, be free. Don't want, don't try, be loved. Don't try, don't want, be free. Don't want, don't try, be loved.
Okay, thank you, Al.
You betcha. Thank you, Irma.
All right.
KCAA Loma Linda, 1050 AM, 106.5 FM, and now 102.3 FM.